Before Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury, WNBA tickets were averaging $89. The moment she went down, price crashed nearly 30%, plummeting to $62 a seat. That's kind of crazy. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but obviously the big...
Okay, picture this. The WNBA is staring straight into a ratings and financial apocalypse. Commissioner Kathy Angelbert is watching what was hyped as the league's defining moment evaporate into a nightmare, collapsing faster than a balloon losing air.
WNBA and the Indiana Fever did not want people to know that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for the season. I can tell you, from the very day that they decided to let that go public, everything has dropped off a cliff. Views on this channel, the television ratings, the interest, Thanos snapped out of existence. People were trying to hang on to the possibility this whole time. Look, so many people stayed engaged with the team because they thought the...
And here's the twist. The entire collapse traces back to one moment, the Indiana Fever announcing that Caitlin Clark won't return for the rest of the 2025 season. In an instant, the WNBA's golden goose was gone, and what's left looks less like a league and more like an expensive sideshow nobody's buying a ticket to.
July. The WNBA proudly flaunted ratings for the All-Star Game, which drew 2.2 million viewers. Of course, they conveniently failed to mention that ratings were down 36% from the record ratings that Caitlin Clark pulled the year before. Early August, ESPN pointed out that the Seattle Spankers and the Indiana Felines, without Caitlin Clark, drew 1.6 million on ABC. ESPN claimed that WNBA ratings were up 20% over last year, mostly without Caitlin Clark playing. But over the last 3 or 4 weeks, both the WNBA and the media have been strangely silent. I wonder...
Now the numbers after Clark's season-ending announcement, disastrous doesn't even begin to cover it. WNBA playoff ticket prices collapsed, free-falling an average of 30% overnight. Games once topping $200 now struggle to break $25. Let that sink in. Front row playoff seats cheaper than dinner.
The WNBA are currently treading dangerous waters. It's sharks out there, y'all. It is sharks out there in the deep ends of that water. Reality is hitting, and the playoffs have the potential to expose even more. Ratings could potentially crash in this year's WNBA playoffs without Caitlin Clark. Networks have their eyes peeled to what is going on, and ticket prices plummeted 30% while Caitlin Clark was out.
And get this, it lands even harder for the Indiana Fever. All season, they were cashing in on premium ticket prices, right? But the instant Clark went down, their road game prices collapsed by a brutal 71%, tumbling from an average of $137 to only $80. This isn't some little dip. Folks, this is a full-blown market crash, exposing just how completely dependent this entire league is on one single player.
And she's only on one team. But a very big chunk of the total attendance in WNBA is from the Indiana Fever. They have the second highest home attendance, and teams are literally moving arenas. So yeah, a lot of teams, whether it be the Lynx opening the Upper Bowl, whether it be the Wings, the Dream, the Sky, all of these teams moving games. All of these teams are moving games for the Indiana Fever, regardless of who it is. They all have to sell those seats. And a lot of people don't want to go, and it's super cheap. Like, it's a lot easier to fill a 10,000 seat arena without Caitlin Clark than it's to fill 20,000. So you're going to have to find a way to do it anyway, which is what a lot of people are going to be doing, trying to sell tickets.
So the 2025 WNBA season, it was billed as the crown jewel, the year of record crowds and unheard of revenue. But instead, what we're watching is a masterclass in how fast fake success can just vanish when the foundation is paper thin. Clark, who had literally never missed a game in college or her rookie year, managed only 13 games in 2025 thanks to a storm of brutal injuries. And without her gravity pulling it all together, The league that swore it had finally arrived is already tumbling back toward its old, familiar irrelevance. And trust me, the financial numbers leave zero room for doubt.
The WNBA playoffs begin on Sunday. Have you noticed that no one is talking about it? This time last year, the WNBA was dominating talk shows on ESPN and FS1. Content creators on YouTube were flooding the platform with WNBA videos. This year, it's complete silence. Obviously, ratings for the playoffs are going to be a flaming ass fire. But if I'm the WNBA, I am concerned.
If you're finding this interesting, hit that subscribe button. Now, here's the real killer. It's not just the money bleeding out today, it's the total blackout of sports media interest. Think about it. The same networks and commentators who treated the WNBA like essential viewing are now cooling off faster than ice cream in a freezer. The voices that shouted about a breakthrough moment are quietly drifting back to covering sports that actually deliver ratings, leaving the league clawing for relevance without its only headline act. Outlets that once carved out airtime for Clark's rise are now slashing coverage, some even ripping WNBA content completely from primetime slots. Here's the brutal truth. Sports media doesn't do charity. They chase clicks, views, engagement. And without Clark's viral plays and daily storylines, the WNBA has no hook for mainstream audiences. Even ESPN, the league's loudest cheerleader, has to swallow the fact that its entire coverage strategy was built on one star's shoulders.
We talked about Jason Whitlock disowning the WNBA. True to his word, hasn't spoken a lick about the WNBA since. Colin Cowherd trashing the WNBA. It's Caitlin Clark and only Caitlin Clark. Last year, he used to lead shows talking Caitlin Clark, talking WNBA. This year, with her injury, didn't even bother wasting more than 10 minutes talking about the WNBA this year. No Shanae, no Elle Duncan, no Monica McNutt, none of those.
But maybe the clearest sign of just how desperate this league has become is in the numbers, because the viewership didn't just dip, it collapsed the second Clark left the floor. We're talking games that once pulled in more than 1.8 million fans, now limping along at barely 200,000. That's an 89% free fall, a jaw-dropping reminder of how inflated this popularity boom really was. And here's the kicker. Even the so-called rivalry matchups, like Chicago Sky versus Indiana Fever, once hyped as must-see TV when it was Clark against Angel Reese, are now drawing crowds so embarrassingly small that the networks won't even publish the ratings. Just think about that for a second.
Nationally televised games have mysteriously disappeared. I knew the WNBA lived in a world of make-believe, but I never realized they were magicians. It seems when ratings fail to meet expectations, the WNBA makes ratings disappear faster than pants at the Butt Bongo Festival. Sports Media Watch, which is the go-to source for sports ratings, Sports Media Watch, they have not updated WNBA ratings since.
Now here's the kicker. This ticket price free fall isn't just crushing Indiana Fever games. No, it's spreading like wildfire across the entire WNBA. Playoff contests that once carried a $200 premium during the absolute height of Clark Mania are now going for as little as $25. And even at those bargain basement prices, arenas can't fill the seats. That's not a dip. That's a seismic shift, a market collapse that threatens to blow up the league's entire business model. But here's what makes it infuriating. All of this was preventable. Clark's season-ending injury didn't just appear out of thin air. It was the inevitable result of a league that utterly failed to protect its most valuable asset, while allowing a culture of excessive physicality to thrive. From quad injuries in May to groin strains piling up through the summer, her body was broken down by relentless targeting the WNBA not only tolerated, but in some ways encouraged. The league that should have been building walls around its golden ticket instead stood there passively, watching its financial future disintegrate at the hands of poor officiating and laughably inadequate protection protocols. It's almost unbelievable.
Them Caitlin Clark tickets was hard to get your hands on. It don't matter if she was playing in LA, Indiana, Atlanta, Seattle. It did not matter. Afghanistan. It didn't matter. It was hard to get your hands on a Caitlin Clark ticket. Y'all see how many people showed up in Iowa? They could have filled up a football stadium. Super Bowl. Yeah, that.
And you know what else? The chase for relevance is collapsing exactly the way critics said it would. The league's frantic attempts to spin new storylines and push other players in Clark's absence have landed with a thud. Despite all the hype packages, all the next big rivalry promos, the numbers don't lie. Fans just aren't interested in a Clark-less WNBA. And this isn't some short-term adjustment period. It's a total rejection of the product once you strip away the one attraction driving it. The math is brutal. Without Clark, the WNBA has reverted right back to its pre-Clark status, which, let's be honest, was practically invisible. And the damage goes way beyond empty arenas and TV ratings. Merchandise sales, which skyrocketed by over 500% during her rookie season, are now plummeting as retailers can't move WNBA gear without the Clark effect fueling demand. Even worse, big-name sponsors who jumped in with seven-figure deals during the record growth boom are suddenly pulling back, reassessing, because they know exactly what those metrics were built on: one player, not a sustainable league. Ouch.
And a Nike commercial other than a Gatorade commercial. How many commercials have you seen of companies putting WNBA players as the face of their commercial? I can't think of one. The only commercial that comes to mind is the Paige Becker's Coach commercial, and they don't even put that on television. That seems to be strictly a League Pass commercial that they show us while we're watching WNBA on League Pass. Other than that, has there been any State Farm commercials not featuring Caitlin Clark that you've seen throughout?
But the most devastating revelation of all is just how lightning fast the entire sports world has moved on from the WNBA. The second Clark stopped generating those daily headlines, social media engagement, it collapsed. Sports talk shows have hacked away at their WNBA coverage. And those casual fans, the very ones pulled in by Clark's magnetic personality, have already shifted their attention to other sports. This isn't just a minor setback. It's a complete reversal of everything the league thought it had built over the past 2 years. What we're watching now is the raw exposure of the WNBA's deep, flawed business model. A league that just weeks ago was chest-thumping about record attendance and massive television deals is suddenly facing the brutal truth. Their growth was tied to one player's appeal, not real sustainable interest in women's basketball. Without Clark, the metrics crash right back to their old norm. Low viewership, minimal media coverage, and half-empty arenas even with tickets slashed to the bone. A sobering reminder.
Oh, sports media is upset at the WNBA for what they've been doing to Caitlin Clark. You hear me? Depriving everybody from enjoying the game of basketball. You hear me? She put women basketball back on the map. Yes, the WNBA has been irrelevant. And I'm glad everybody is speaking up. Colin Cowherd, Jason Whitlock, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless. Yeah, everybody upset. Bruh, like, these women, they so petty, bruh, and they don't even care, dog. They don't mind hurting themselves just to hurt you, bro.
Now, the playoff implications. Those are perhaps the most devastating piece of this crisis. The WNBA playoffs, meant to be the league's ultimate showcase, are entering their most crucial stretch without their biggest attraction. And the fallout is brutal. Television executives who banked everything on clock-driven ratings are now staring at the grim reality of postseason games that may struggle to even crack 500,000 viewers. That's not just disappointing, that's catastrophic. Because lower viewership means less advertising revenue, and that trickles down fast. It threatens salaries, player demands, even the league's basic operating structure. But here's the kicker. This entire meltdown validates exactly what the skeptics had warned all along. They said the WNBA's so-called growth wasn't real, that it was artificially tied to one player, not genuine, sustainable interest in the league. And now, they've been proven right in the most undeniable way. The market has spoken, and the verdict is brutal. WNBA basketball without Caitlin Clark is a product fans simply aren't willing to buy, no matter how much marketing spin the league throws at it.
Shared similar reactions to the drastic change in ticket prices following Clark's injury. Because it's unwatchable without her, someone else added, did her injury deflate ticket prices or just prove she's the entire league's economy? Another person wrote, honestly, I'm surprised it isn't more than that. I would have guessed 50%. No matter what you think about Clark, she brings people to watch. We're lucky to be able to see her. I hope she comes back strong. You don't have to like her, but she is the headline.
So let's be clear. Commissioner Kathy Angelbert's legacy will be defined by one thing: how catastrophically she mismanaged the league's single most valuable asset. Instead of putting real safeguards in place to protect Caitlin Clark and building an environment where the WNBA's brightest star could thrive, Angelbert presided over a system that not only tolerated but practically encouraged excessive physicality. The result? A season-ending injury to the one player whose presence literally spelled the difference between relevance and total irrelevance for the entire league. What we're seeing now is a brutal case study in how quickly artificial success collapses when it rests on a foundation this fragile. A league that just months ago was boasting about its big arrival into the mainstream is suddenly scrambling just to keep casual fans interested. Ticket prices are in freefall. Television ratings are sliding back toward historic lows. Sports media coverage is vanishing almost overnight. And all of it traces back to one catastrophic failure: the WNBA couldn't, or wouldn't, protect the very player who made their entire resurgence possible. So here's the harsh, undeniable, mathematical reality staring the WNBA in the face. Without Caitlin Clark, they are careening back to their pre-2024 irrelevance at a speed even the most brutal critics didn't predict. Ticket prices? Collapsed. Ratings? Evaporated. Media interest? Vanished so dramatically that networks are openly questioning whether WNBA programming is even worth the investment anymore. The league that thought it had finally arrived is now learning the cold truth. Sustainable success takes more than one transcendent superstar. Without her, they are right back to square one, lost in a crowded sports landscape that has already moved on to bigger, more compelling stories. And the message couldn't be clearer. The WNBA without Caitlin Clark is exactly what it was before Caitlin Clark, a niche product that most sports fans ignore. The ratings don't lie. The attendance doesn't lie. The ticket prices don't lie. Clark wasn't just part of the league's growth. She was the growth. Her absence has ripped the mask off and exposed just how hollow that so-called momentum really was until she returns. This league will keep sliding fast back into the same sports entertainment obscurity it occupied for nearly 3 decades. And that, my friends, is the bottom line.